everybody, and welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week on Listener Submitted Month, we are talking about Howling, New Moon Rising. This was, I'm positive, a first-time watch for all three of us. But I have to say, this is probably the title that has been submitted more years for Listener Submitted than almost any other title. People have really wanted us to watch this one. I don't think anyone wrote as fans, but let's go to the email, the one that finally convinced us. And says, "Hey guys, so today I posted on the Facebook page that a certain film from a fairly prolific franchise was now available for streaming and suggested it for a future episode. Reception was a little mixed, but Scott didn't mince words. First Blood Harvest, now this. Someone needs to tie Damien up in the basement somewhere. How did he get to know what my favorite sex game was? Matt and Kyle, on the other hand, seemed receptive to the idea. Matt even said I should submit it as a request for Listener Submitted Month. So here I am, formally requesting the supposedly worst film in the Howling franchise and the only one to never get an official Blu-ray or DVD release. Howling, New Moon Rising. What could I say about this movie? Apparently, the writer and producer of 4 and 5 decided it was necessary to tie those films in Part 6 together into a continuous timeline. So he casts himself as a mysterious stranger who shows up in a little redneck town where all the locals are played by actual locals from the town. Line dancing happens, as does a running joke that no one in town knows who country music legend George Jones is. The film is an absolute glorious train wreck that must be seen to disbelieve. There is no logical reason for this film to even exist, but yet it does. And now you may have to watch it, although you may find yourselves questioning the wisdom of sweeping Blood Harvest aside for this one. I'm expelled from the Facebook group, aren't I? Damien. P.S. If you have the time, check out the Joe Bob segments about the movie. They're on YouTube. It's pretty interesting. So, yeah, I mean, this movie is very strange. I mean,
it's an anomaly for sure.
I applaud them for trying to do this seemingly impossible task.
Well, so go ahead.
Of tying 3 to 4 sequels that have nothing to do to each other into a continuous timeline is absolutely a baffling decision to begin with.
Ambitious beyond belief.
But
really,
holy Christ, this was... I mean, the one plus that I'll say about this movie is that it becomes background noise real fucking quick and easy. So, like... Because it's mostly, like, nothing. Like, it's so little happens for the runtime of this movie.
Yeah.
This is a long hour and a half.
Yeah. It was a long hour and a half. You have 2 distinct portions of this film. You have Pioneer Town, and then you have explanation of the Howling franchise. 2 separate, full-blown separate, and also a different subtitle as Mystery Woman. Is that correct? That was the subtitle that came up on the title card after the worst company logo in the history of company logos.
I was going to say that was the highlight of the whole movie for me, was those 2 little cartoon characters opening a door together.
Incredible, guys.
It was I wish it was a saloon door
that would have made so much more sense, though.
It was the most modern looking thing that happened for an hour and 30 minutes.
Yes.
Like,
yes, it was. Yes, it absolutely was.
So much so I thought it was a Tubi commercial before the movie had started. Like, I was like, oh, this is just another ad for something.
Thank God it was on Prime with subtitles. Amazing.
You watched it on Prime?
I watched it on Prime with subtitles, and without the subtitles, I wouldn't have known the difference between dramatic country music and upbeat country music, which were the 2 tracks that they had as music the entire time. And the darkest line dancing fucking hoedown.
That's some weird, it's somber line dancing.
The line that I did not write many notes about this movie, but the one note that I wrote was that this movie soundtrack is an episode all of its own.
Yes.
Because
please don't make me do that, Matt.
It is so outrageous. The moment that was the funniest to me with the soundtrack is a scene probably like 45 minutes into this movie where it keeps jumping between like guy kind of stalking down a girl and it'll go from like showing the girl walking, and it's just this plucky like bleep blop bloop blop bleep blop bloop like music as she's walking around, and then it cuts to the guy, and it's just like like crazy shredding guitar, but then immediately cuts back to the plink plonk plink plonk doo doo bop like as the girl's walking around.
Kyle, it's just me or is Matt? Is his default the cantina music from Star Wars?
It is, yeah, he's missing a few notes. He's like half stepping it. He's sort of it's like reggae.
It's the no. It's not the reggae version. It's the royalty free version.
Yeah.
There's also right out the gate. There's certain tells when you're watching a movie that you're watching a cheap bad movie, and one of the
How could you tell?
one of the first tells for me is within the first maybe 30 seconds of this movie where the voiceover is real tin canny, like they just shot in whatever empty room they could find.
Oh, yes. So,
and I'm like, echoey voiceover, bad sign.
Can we got to rewind for a second here. Did I hear you say correctly that the writer-director of this movie was also the main character, the Australian dude?
Yes.
Correct.
Oh, my God. Guys.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
He can't act
here's
for
the
shit.
story. Here's the story that I heard was that he was the producer of, I want to say it was part 4, and that
the freak. No, what was 4?
No, that's Howling for the original Nightmare.
Oh, the original.
I didn't see that one.
So,
thank goodness.
And we're gonna have
the original Nightmare, dude.
We're gonna have a brief conversation about. So, Howling for the original Nightmare is essentially a remake of the first Howling movie that is supposed to be more true to the novel, since the original movie deviates greatly, hence the original Nightmare.
Gotcha.
And apparently there was a ton of butting heads with the director on that, so much so that most of the cast on part 4 was like, yeah, the producer directed that movie, not the guy who's like listed as the director. So I think that that's what gave him the confidence that he could be a triple
I want to
threat
be as
this time
confident
around.
as I want to be as confident as this dude, because he's got a mullet, he's got no good looks, he's got no acting skills, and he literally just points cameras in places. That's his idea of direction. It's incredible, guys.
And making sure that he can tell a joke in each scene is key.
Yeah.
To push the story forward.
This is the
so he also
tamest
had
movie.
the confidence to take on not only that the Howling 4 was a remake of the first movie based on the book, but this movie is based on all 3 Howling books by Gary Bradner. It says based on the books Howling 1, 2, and 3. And I'm gonna venture to guess this is probably far off from any of those books. I can't imagine that there is an fucking iota of inspiration drawn from any of those books.
No, that was what when I was doing, as I said, I did a lot of research on this last night.
Wow. Why?
So this is the first. So one of the things was this is the first Howling sequel since Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf, to even attempt any type of continuity. Also a very worthless fun fact, but the only Howling sequel to include hillbillies. It also
Is that
said
really
all the
true?
hillbillies.
Because I mean, the Freaks, I would consider to be in the same town. It's literally within walking distance of 6. Because, spoiler to anybody who doesn't know, but the killer in this is the one who got away from the people in 6.
Correct.
So it's literally the next town over. So how is this the only one that has rednecks? The last one had rednecks. Oh, is it because they're carnies?
Yeah, carnies aren't necessarily hillbillies. Also, all the hillbillies
They are in my life.
They used their actual names, so
Yes,
most people are
everybody
just
has
acting under their real names.
Well, it's because no one is an actual actor in this movie. Because the entire town is... So, from what I remember reading about this, the writer/director/lead, apparently, loved Pioneer Town so much. He said it was, quote-unquote, the best town he'd ever been to or something.
He said it was one of his favorite towns in the world.
Yeah, why?
Ooh,
Did
I'm feeling ultra connected to this dude because of that. I don't feel safe. Pioneer Town seems like a place that I would say the same thing about. I don't know if I would necessarily write, direct, and star in my own movie of Pioneer Town.
You'd be
but
saying that because you are like saying it under duress, because the people of Pioneer Town are like, say it or we cut your balls off. I don't know. Like,
isn't this the favorite place you've ever been?
Yeah.
All right, so here's the thing I was trying to
Jesus,
find.
guys.
So Clive Turner worked on the Howling franchise since Marsupials in 1987, where he was an
Great
uncredited location manager.
Yeah.
He went on
'Cause he's
to
Australian.
write the original Nightmare and the Rebirth. He was determined to make a seventh film that connected all of the unrelated Howling films together into a singular timeline. His original plan was to make a film that was fully footage from the other movies to accomplish the task with as little money as possible, but ultimately decided against this, although some footage from the other movies exists in the limited extended cut of the film.
Yeah, like, because there was footage in the version that I saw, but there was far less than I think I expected.
It's a little bit in the
for
castle,
an
right?
Attempt to try.
I
What
was
that?
prepared for it to be a clip show.
Yeah,
I think that it would have been
And-
better if it was a clip show, but no, it was
no
not a
kidding.
clip show.
No kidding.
My ears heard something, Kyle.
Oh, wait, what was that?
Yeah, so I was not drinking the last couple episodes. I'm not going out of my way, and I didn't have enough time today. But I did have a ranch water in my fridge, and because we were on Pioneer Town, it seemed
Wait,
very ranch-like.
What is ranch water?
So it's basically
Water.
It's water. No, it's basically a hard seltzer but made with agave. But you can't call it tequila seltzer. Like, you can't call it, like, it's a tequila base, but you can't call it tequila. So it's agave based. It's good. It's fine.
Sorry,
It's very nice for this hot ass basement.
That's why Kyle. For those who are not watching this at home, Kyle is
Yes.
topless.
I am. The Zencaster format changed, and it took my shirt with it.
I wonder how much he's wearing below the belt too. We won't know. It's
No, I
just
think
got to
this
be up
is
to
all
your.
we're getting.
Yeah. So
Yeah, no, that's how much does a Patreon go up to?
$69 will get you the full
Hell
Monty,
yeah,
everybody.
brother.
But here's the thing: when you say ranch water, my Ohio, Midwest mind does not go to agave seltzer. It goes to the creamy celery seed goodness that is Hidden Valley, which I wish that the valley that this was filmed in had stayed hidden, because this was the worst shit that we've watched in such a long time. I was watching this in mental anguish, and I just, how when the women who were like the British women during the British Empire just say to their female married friends, like when they're discussing what is now spousal rape, they'd be like, just lay back and think of the empire. That's what I was thinking as I was watching this. I was just laying back and I was thinking about the horror movie night Empire, because the empire wants us to suffer. They want the pain.
Yeah.
And they got
you know
it this
what?
week.
I love it. I love every bit of it.
How many Doritos did you have with this?
You know what, dude? I think I was sober for this, or like on an empty stomach.
Empty
Or
stomach.
whatever.
Yeah, that's
I
the
don't
word
know.
we're term.
Yeah,
That's the
that
term we're
works.
going for, guys.
I don't think I can't. Well, I can't remember. So
That doesn't
So
bode well
you
for the
are
answer there,
Doritos.
bud.
But,
but
on my timeline of things, I've been holding off. So there's potential I watch this straight. But when I discuss my double feature, you'll see why I enjoy stuff like this. I think. So.
Okay.
So I kind of agree with Scott that like a clip show would have been better than what we got, because like we've done the Freaks, which I mean, until I had seen this one, the absolute worst of the
It was
Howling
pretty bad,
franchise,
but there
had
was
to
more
offer.
action. This is just
Yeah.
talking and bad country music.
But like part 4, I remember not hating, and part 5 feels like Scott would like it despite the fact that it's not good, because it's a period piece inside of a castle.
They come up with this insane logic that it takes a werewolf, was it 7 days or 30 days
30, I believe.
to fully become a werewolf? Maybe it's 7. It doesn't
Trial
matter.
period?
Yeah, it's like a try before you buy kind of thing. And I don't like that. There are a lot of things I don't like about this movie, but that's the thing I like the least, because I like new and interesting werewolf lore specifically for a movie, but that is, whatever it was so asinine. I just could not handle it.
Well, my point that I was trying to make was like, even the worst of the Howling sequels, for the most part, you can usually mine like 15 to 20 good minutes out of it. So if you just took the 15 or 20 good minutes of those 3 movies and then just kind of like connective tissued just the director being interviewed by a priest and a police officer to try to help them solve this mystery, and it's like, well, way back in the 1700s, and then it's like 20 minutes of like the best moments of part 5. Like, like it wouldn't be a movie that I think we would ever talk about, because I think we've pretty much avoided clip show movies. It's why we'll probably never really do Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, because like
sadly
there's like 20 minutes of new movie in that.
Yeah.
But it would have made this A, cheaper, B, it probably would have flowed a hell of a lot better, because there are few movies I have watched in my time that feels more like they are trying to pad out to that full 90 minutes than The Howling New Moon Rising, a movie where I don't believe we even see an actual werewolf for more than 2 minutes in the movie.
And
that's
it
not
might
even
be
2
the
minutes.
old clips of the other werewolves.
No,
Because
you see the actual killer transform with very bad CGI.
In the last like 30 seconds.
I think you see her for 30 seconds and then she gets killed. It's like immediate kill. I don't know why they went through all the trouble of making the costume, because somebody did actually get morphed into a costume, but it's a close-up, so it's like they just did the face, and then they have it jump through a window, and it looks so shoddy, and then it gets killed by the entire town, and then everybody goes back to the saloon and has an apology show for the director.
Yeah,
which is wild.
It may have just ended with them lifting him up on their shoulders and
hip
carrying
hip
him out
hooray!
into the sunset.
It's exactly what Matt wants when he does weird ass movie night.
1,000%. All right, so I can answer your question on the werewolf, actually, because this was an IMDb fact that 2 out of 2 people found interesting.
Ooh,
it
maybe
said Clive
3 out
Turner
of 2.
and
Kind of same.
yeah, Clive Turner and Roger Neal differed on the look of the werewolf. Turner wanted the werewolf to resemble the one from Howling 4, the original Nightmare, that Steve Johnson had designed, while Neal wanted it to look completely different. An FX team tried to please both of them by finding a middle ground, which ended up pleasing neither of them, before a completely new original design of their own was designed that retained more of the look of the werewolves from the original Howling movie. But I think because they could not find something they were happy with, that's why we get less than 30 seconds of actually seeing it at that point. They're just
And
like,
then they
"Fuck it."
choose to make it look like the first Howling movie, the second best one after Howling 2.
Yeah.
Like, it's clearly, it's insane. It's insane.
That sentence tells me Kyle has not seen the marsupials.
Oh no! I actually love the marsupials. I said it for the
Marsupials is
joke.
great.
Marsupials is truly my favorite.
But I think that if we're really talking about
It's the one I watch most.
Yeah.
the true werewolf form needs 6 to 8 nipples, and that's why Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf, is more of a documentary than anything else. It's a nature documentary because you get to see werewolves fuck.
It's so funny that you said that your least favorite part, Scott, was that part about the lore, because my least favorite part was when they sang about the heart of Texas using their pants zippers. So you and I, we must have just missed out on our least
So see, the
favorite
thing is
parts
that
by a hair.
that's canon in the Howling franchise, because in Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf, there's the aggressive like zipping unzipping that the new waiver punk guys do in like an abandoned cement factory before they get ripped apart by a werewolf.
So you're saying that this movie is brilliant and ties together not just the ones that it expected to tie together, but also bringing in Howling 1 with the effects, Howling 2 with the zippers, and Howling 3 with the with the Australians. It's perfect. It's brilliant.
This is what every director dreams of doing with any franchise when they're
Getting
trying to
the
reboot it.
7th film and tying them all together.
This is legit. Like, I feel like I have seen at least 4 different emails over the 7 years that we've been doing this podcast of people saying, like, you've got to watch Howling New Moon Rising. It is the worst film I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's what it says on Wikipedia too. It's like it was, universally panned, and then somehow gained a cult status with people saying that it is, quote, so bad it's good. It's not. It's just bad.
No.
Like, so bad it's good is serial insane clown killer.
That's Troll 2. That's Birdemic even to a certain extent.
Sure,
but
yeah,
like,
that's the kind of shit that I want from a so bad it's good, where you can laugh. And this is just so painfully boring.
This is so bad Kyle enjoys it.
Yeah.
As opposed to so bad it's good.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Kyle, how about you tell us what your double feature is on this? Because
yes.
I have never struggled more for a double feature on a movie. I was perplexed.
Really?
It was hard. I was hard. It was hard for the first half of the movie, but it clicked for me that I would choose a movie called Champagne and Bullets / Get Even / Road to Rage or Road to Ruin or whatever the third title is. And that is also, if anybody's not seen Champagne and Bullets, it has a honky tonk scene, which is great. It also has a writer, director, lead star who's about the same age as Homeboy here.
Okay.
And who's probably a worse actor. Vinegar Syndrome put it out, and it has easily become one of my. I mean, yeah, I've talked about Neil Breen on the show before. I've talked about. I mean, obviously we've talked about Tommy Wiseau in the Room just by nature of the beast, but like I have an affinity for those types of movies that are really full. Like Passion Project doesn't even describe it. It is like a delusion. I love delusion.
Yeah, you sure do.
And that would be my pairing. It's fun. It's much more fun. It's actiony. It's way more over the top and gratuitous. It's a lot more fun, but it has the similar vibe. So that would be my double feature.
All right. I'm just going to throw out one that I think is obvious. I'm not going to expand on it too much. This movie was shot in 1995, but had the picture and camera stock quality of something shot in 1973, so you might as well just watch some werewolf movie from 1973 called Werewolves on Wheels.
Ooh,
Yes.
man.
Yes.
That's so
Nice.
thematically perfect, but also so punishing.
Oh,
Yeah.
the worst. The
And-
worst
The worst.
evening.
My double feature is almost a triple feature with yours, Matt, because it has witches, and then you get the witches, and you get the werewolves, and you get The Pale Door from 2020. Did either of you guys see this movie?
No.
No.
So it's a Western horror. My first inclination was to go with Priest, but I'm not that insane. So instead of instead of vampires in the desert, I went with witches in the desert in a pioneer town. The Pale Door is fun. It's very, very dumb, but I think that it also knows it, and it just has a good time with it. I would definitely do Howling 7 and then Pale Door, because Pale Door at least, well, maybe you do Pale Door first and then fall asleep to Howling 7. Depends on how many people are at your party, you know?
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, Kyle, is there anything you watched, read, listened to, etc., that you want to talk about?
On the topic of Vinegar Syndrome, which I would just get on anyway.
Yeah.
I watched a movie called Sister Sister by Bill Condon, who ended up directing Kinsey, and he went on to direct a bunch of really solid.
Was that a TV show,
films.
Kinsey?
No, Kinsey was Liam Neeson as the first name escapes me, but as Kinsey the
sex
the
doc, right? Yeah.
sexuality, the sex.
I thought that was a
doc,
TV show, but maybe I'm just confusing
They
it.
did Masters and Masters of Sex.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Right, which is based on Masters, and then who worked under Kinsey, if I remember my don't tell Carly, I can't remember. But it was just this gothic tale that he ended up directing Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn, and Beauty and the live action Beauty and the Beast, and Dreamgirls. So like he's gone on to do
Dreamgirls
huge
is
stuff.
so
But
good.
in '87 he directed Sister Sister, which was this sort of like Southern Gothic thriller that was just like, I don't know, I was in and out of it, but it was just a beautiful thing. Like anytime I turned back to look at it, it was just beautiful to look at. And I just like, it just made me long for that sort of type of filmmaking that is like so environmentally focused, like not set pieces, but like the whole, like it's, it's a big Southern Gothic mansion, and they make the outside of it feel that way. Like it was just a beautiful, beautiful movie. And like the acting was really good and like a fun story, but just a thrilled to watch and look at. And that was a fun one for me that I watched recently. Would be that. Eric Stoltz was in it. Jennifer Jason Leigh, like a young Jennifer Jason Leigh is in it. Really solid actors too. And Eric Stoltz has never looked more like Marty McFly than right here in this film, even Back to the Future aside. So it was good.
Perfect.
Matt?
So I don't think I talked about this yet, but a show that I have talked about in the past had a 3rd season drop on Netflix, and that is Never Have I Ever. Just continue to love this show. It's just charming and cute and funny and all of the things you want from a quirky teen comedy drama little sitcom. Mindy Kaling had created the show. I think it's at least partially autobiographical of her experiences being an Indian kid in a mostly like white high school. But what I really love about the show is that it isn't about the culture shock of being the only Indian kid in a school so much as it's a show about being a kid who is an American living with parents who came here from somewhere else, and the clash of like what your expectations are versus like what their traditional expectations are, and like trying to find yourself in that middle ground where like you're appeasing both your cultural background and like how you've grown up and the people that you've grown up with and the ideals that you've been given from where your life is. So it's definitely mostly funny and quirky, and then there's always those 1 or 2 moments that are just so sugary sweet that they get you right in the heart. Just a little bit.
Well, it wouldn't be a show you love if it didn't have those.
If it didn't have that, correct.
If you're not crying, you're not watching.
I don't know. Flip side is like it doesn't take much to make Matt Kelly cry anyway.
Sure.
I don't like Friends that much as a show, and I teared up watching an episode of that today. So.
No,
I feel like that's
Getcha.
a you commentary. I'm not touching it. I watched Glorious on Shudder. This is coming out a couple weeks after it dropped, probably about a month even. But man, Kyle, did you watch it yet?
Not yet.
Oh,
I
you
haven't
gotta.
either.
I feel like, I think both of you guys are gonna love it. I loved it because it felt like a stage play. I think that it's all I need to say is Lovecraftian glory hole. That's the basic concept.
What I know about it so far is just the fact that it was directed and written by Rebecca McKendry and her husband Dave, who were both on the podcast.
Rebecca didn't write any of it, as far as I know. I believe that Dave co-wrote it with the original writer who wrote the story. Rebecca directed
and then Becca directed it.
Yeah.
But they've been on the show. They talked about Society with us, and in order to promote it on Rebecca's horror podcast that she does with Elric, they did a whole episode of their favorite cosmic horror movies. So I was like, okay, it's a cosmic horror movie. Got it.
I mean, it's really not. And it's also not raunchy, and it's just something all its own. It takes from so many places, and I love that about it, because you would think that a guy talking to an elder god, more or less, in a bathroom stall at a rest stop would not fill 90 minutes for someone like me. But I was never bored. I mean, I love J.K. Simmons. He can do no wrong. I've never seen him in anything that I don't love. So, and he's just a disembodied voice in a toilet stall. It's amazing. I think that the writing's great. I think that the acting's great. I really think that the cinematography makes it cool. But as I was watching it, it really felt like I could see this as a stage play, and it could be done in such a cool way. Like, I mean, I don't know if it would be quite as compelling without some special effects, but I mean, like, it doesn't need the special effects is what makes it so cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you think about their previous movie, it's tied around an anthology based on people seeing like a black box community stage play.
Yes.
And I know she comes from a theater background, so it's like she's really using those roots. Like, I guess, you know, we all come from a theater background. But I think that she actually, like, she like directed and was in it and like has that in her blood, and it's that's awesome to hear. I've been eager to see it. I liked all the creatures were stirring, and
It's in my opinion, it looks better. It is produced way better. I think it's a huge step up. I mean,
right.
And
I felt like it was practice for this. In a lot of ways,
and
I
love that about. I mean, I love to see the progression of people that we are at least even tertiarily related to or connected to. I love to see the progression. I love to see more money being funneled into their projects. But at the same time, I feel like all the creatures we're stirring feels indie, and this feels like just on the cusp of not being indie anymore. Like the only thing indie about it is the use of CGI. I mean, that's it, in my opinion. It's really a very well done movie.
The beautiful thing about independent film, particularly horror right now, is that it's coming together so that those products aren't separate in our eyes a lot of ways.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
and that's great.
I think Shudder really helps lead the charge of that. I think horror always does that for all film, like all filmmaking ever, right? That's why we talk about it fucking constantly. But it's such a trailblazer for blurring those lines and allowing creativity to shine through and not budget. And I think that's going to help. And Shudder obviously is so helping that lead the charge.
Shudder has had a lot of really good Shudder originals or Shudder exclusives or whatever you want to call them. This is a big year for Shudder, and I feel like it shows that they have created a business model that is successful for them, and therefore they can fund these projects, and that's so great because they're kind of the direct line between very small filmmakers and like Blumhouse. I mean, maybe not Blumhouse, but you know what I'm saying. Is like something it's very
the only thing
huge audiences.
The thing that bums me out, though, and I think we've talked about this on the show before, but I think horror, more than almost any other genre, kind of gets the short end of the stick with this. And I know that, like, I am probably the highest on the physical media collector scale, and then Kyle, and then
definitely
Scott.
I'm last,
But there's this element, I think, that bums me out, where it's like Shudder should also be partnering up with Scream Factory or Vinegar Syndrome or something to give these films a shelf life. Because I feel like the positive is that there's this beautiful tapestry of independent horror that, like, a month after the thing has been released, we are so influxed with other digital horror that stuff just kind of gets pushed out of your memory and pushed out of your, like, direct line of view, and you don't think about it because there's, like, so much other stuff coming in, where a DVD on your shelf, you're going to walk past it a bunch of times and eventually be like, man, I haven't watched that in a bit. And you're going to take it out. And, like, the example I use is, like, I've said it a million times, no one even really remembers that Vast of Night existed, and that's such a travesty to me because it is such a masterpiece of a film. And then you look at something like Hulu has Prey, and I guarantee that Prey will get a Blu-ray release that will be, like, in Walmarts or something at a certain point because it's tied to the Predator franchise.
But they have. I really think that you have a great point, but my beef is with the examples, because Prey is an existing successful franchise that's fucking 35, 40 years old at this point.
But I guess my point is being more so like, yes, should Shudder release their own DVDs and try to get them in the stores? Like, no, absolutely not. But, like, if you're doing the Venn diagram of people who buy physical media and people who like horror movies, that is the biggest overlap. So, like, it's a collector's market specifically within horror. So it's like, if you've got a film that's doing pretty well on Shudder, you should already be having that conversation. I would rather take any Shudder exclusive than half of the IFC garbage that Shout Factory puts out.
But it's
on
also
Blu-ray.
because they're playing a different game. You know, I get what you're saying, and I do agree. I don't know, like, so for me, I've watched a bunch of Shudder exclusives or Shudder originals this year, and I mean, I probably couldn't tell you off the top of my head which ones I like the best, but I think that Hellbenders and Glorious are the two that I would rewatch.
Hellbender is so good.
And I feel like the Addams Family is gonna. I feel like the good and bad about a Shudder original is and having that bigger platform for a much smaller movie like Glorious, and specifically Hellbenders, because Hellbenders is like very, very small. It's way smaller than Glorious in my opinion. But I think it's a better movie. I think that Hellbenders is the best horror movie I've seen all year. What I think is that the Addams Family is going to go to cons, kind of like how Chris LaMartina is taking his WNUF sequel to cons. He's doing film festivals. Obviously, Kyle is doing film festivals with his short. I think that it sucks that you're not going to be able to get your physical media out there in a Walmart, in a Target. But mail order's a thing, and I also think that cons are a thing, and the great thing for small production houses, if you want to call them that, or like production groups, is that they don't have to give up their rights for distribution, and then they get to have a better grasp on the way that their media is consumed. I mean, they gave up rights for digital to have it on Shudder for these examples, but
because I feel like
for
if
physical,
you ask
like you're gonna be, if they do a 5,000 disc run of Hellbenders and they do 20 cons and they sell their 5,000 copies of them for $25 a pop, they're probably going to be keeping $20 from each of those, or more.
No,
and that's
for sure.
That's awesome.
And I mean, the question could go to Kyle because he's the director of the three of us, but I feel like any director, even one who fully buys into the all digital model, like, you're gonna want a copy of your movie on a DVD.
That's the interesting thing that I would imagine filmmakers battle. I mean, because it's the same thing. It's like, I want to see it in a theater.
Yeah.
Okay, but like, what does that look like now? Is it's a film festival, but that's a select audience.
True.
It's a limited release on a disc. That's a limited audience. It's like, but at the same time, there's pride, there's nostalgia, there's a lot of factors, good and bad, that are involved in it. Like, I totally agree. I mean, like, when we did Film Freaks and went out, we did a independent run of discs, and when they're gone, they're gone. I will look at what Vinegar Syndrome does with their partner labels, and it's like, oh, if Shudder even just gives the filmmakers an option to opt into a partner label physical release, limit it to 2,000 copies or whatever, and just have it out there. It's like, there's my gears start turning, but then at the same time, I realize that I'm sitting on 2 full boxes of Film Freaks DVDs that, are they gonna move? I don't know. I'm gonna bring them to Creature Feature Weekend. We'll see. But like it's a crapshoot. It's a total crapshoot.
I get nervous about, and I know that this is probably the amount of people who are nervous about this. I won't say that I'm the only one, but I realize that I am in a very small percentile, right? But it's like, you hear the reports of like Netflix's stock just plummeting and like subscribers leaving en masse, right? And eventually that means that Netflix is going to one day probably have to close up shop and sell their assets or whatever. And while there is probably going to be someone who wants to buy the rights to, say, a Stranger Things to put on their streaming site, there are also plenty of really great shows that maybe got canceled before their time that just vanish. You know what I mean?
What's going to happen to your Vanessa Hudgens trilogy?
Yeah,
no,
those will be gone forever.
Knight's Tale or whatever.
Yeah,
my Christmas,
like the cinematics Netflix Christmas universe will be destroyed. But like, even something like, I'd hate to say it, but like,
talking about this,
will somebody pick up Glow for a different streaming site, or will Glow just disappear forever? You know what I mean? Like, that's the stuff where like having a DVD does keep that alive in some way, that like having it strictly only available digitally, it can die and disappear. And it's no different than when like there was a big ass fire in the 30s and just thousands of movies are gone forever.
Right.
So that stuff like legitimately worries me, and that, like, not, I'm like, now I collect DVDs because it's a noble cause. Like, no, I collect DVDs because I fucking want DVDs.
Yeah.
But
ketchup sandwiches.
But it's like, the flip side is like, you do feel a slight pinch of entitlement when like something like, oh, Friends is getting pulled off of Netflix, and everyone's like, but my Friends, and I'm like, my Friends is right over there on the shelf under F.
Yes. Right.
I don't
Right.
give a fuck where they're at because I got
Right.
them. Like,
Unfortunately, yeah. Whenever that meme comes up about a dude in front of his DVD collection, I'm just like, ugh, yeah, but I get it. Like, it's yeah. Like, I know the "I told you so" doesn't feel that good anymore.
all right. Well, as always, we barely talked. Well, we gave 20 solid minutes. So maybe
It
they
got
didn't
the
earn
20
it.
minutes of clip footage that it deserved.
Yeah.
From us.
And then we got heavy on some talk.
Yeah.
But all right,
Yeah.
we will be
Existential
back.
Dread.
We'll be back next week with the final episode of the Listener Submit It month saga.
Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.